I think the thing about globalization is its unevenness. People always assume it's a fact. It's not, as I said earlier, business people who assume globalization is just there and it's never going to go away should go and read history books very quickly, because the answer is it can get reversed. In the end, globalization relies on political decisions. It relies on tariffs being down. It relies on people and goods being able to cross borders. And just to give you a sort of frightening example, what happens if there is a dirty nuclear bomb in Delhi or Manhattan? What would that do to shipping stuff around the world? People will be far more paranoid. It's those sort of things which could yet unstable it. The underlying bits of globalization, I think you have to look at it as broadly as possible. I see globalization as a ever freer movement of goods, capital, people, but also ideas around the world, and that is generally why we are I hope a kind of great liberal newspaper. That is why we've always been sort of foursquare behind it. For us, it's economic freedom and individual freedom. They don't absolutely go together, but they come from the same source. I think there are lots of downsides in the sense of individual people who get caught out by this kind of often cruel process. A particular group of people who have always been vulnerable have tended to be the workers in richer countries who are more vulnerable to foreign competition. You shouldn't push that too hard. I mean, if you look at most things, there's been a lot of big arguments recently about wages in America. Why have wages in America kept down? And globalization is usually figured as the culprit. And that's, most of the evidence is no, it's not. The real thing which has kept wages down is technology. And the problem is that it's very hard for a politician to blame computers for people's jobs going or for pressure on wages. It's much easier to say it's the Chinese or the Indians, but again, look, just think through your life. Just think of the difference between banks when there were lots of tellers, and now the fact you have ATMs to go and get stuff for it. That had a colossal effect on industry, far greater than say NAFTA, which I remember was sort of going through at roughly the same time. But NAFTA attracted all the headlines, and that's the problem with globalization. The basic economic logic of it is always disturbed by the politics of how it's pushed forward.